We use language all day, every day. It's just there. But have you ever stopped to think about what's really going on underneath it all? It's this massive, hidden universe of rules and history and power. Today, we're going to take a journey, starting with the tiniest vibration in your throat and ending up with the secret codes we use every single day. Let's dive in.
So, to get us started, I've got a really simple question for you. I want you to say 2 words out loud, wherever you are. Ready? Pat and bat. Go on, give it a try. Pat, bat. Really feel what your mouth and your throat are doing. There's this tiny, almost unnoticeable difference, isn't there? Well, that little distinction, that's where this whole story begins.
And here's the secret. It's a little thing called voicing. When you say bat, your vocal cords are actually vibrating. You can literally feel it. Put your fingers on your throat and say b, b, b. You feel that buzz? Now try p, p, p. Nothing, right? It's just a puff of air. That tiny buzz is one of the absolute fundamental building blocks we use to create all of language. Okay, so that little buzz is just one feature. Every single sound we make is built from just a handful of simple physical actions. You can think of it like a recipe. So let's take a quick look at the ingredients that make up these basic building blocks of speech.
Now, this chart might look a bit technical, but it's really like a blueprint for a sound. See, for linguists, a sound isn't just a letter, it's a combination of features. For both P and B, the place of articulation is your lips. The manner is plosive, which is just a fancy word for a little explosion of air. The only difference, the one thing that separates them, is that voicing switch, on or off. Every sound in every language has a blueprint just like this one.
All right, so we have our sound breaks, but you can't just throw them in a pile and call it a house, right? You need an architecture, a plan, to build something meaningful. So let's zoom out and look at one of the key rules of that architecture, how to build sentences, not just to make sense, but to make sense powerfully.
These are some of the golden rules for clear, powerful communication. I mean, the goal isn't just to be understood, right? It's to be impactful. And so often, that just means cutting away all the fluff, all the stuff that doesn't add real meaning, to get right to the core of the idea.
And wow, this just illustrates the point perfectly, doesn't it? On the left, you have 49 words doing the work that just six words can do on the right. They mean the exact same thing, but one is a long, winding, confusing path, and the other is a straight shot. This is the magic of syntax, arranging your words not just correctly, but powerfully.
So, the way we structure our sentences says a lot about how we think today. But what if we could use language as a kind of time machine to see how people thought centuries ago? Because language isn't just a tool, it's a living artifact. It preserves the values, the fears, the whole mindset of the past. So let's take a quick trip back to Elizabethan England.
Now, this quote might sound a little formal, a little dry, but it tells us so much. This very structured, very precise language, it points to a society that was obsessed with order, with rules, with control. The language of the law wasn't just for lawyers back then, it was the entire framework for daily life. It shaped absolutely everything. And this is where that formal language of Parliament comes crashing down into the reality of the street. Just look at what they considered a felony. It wasn't just robbery, stealing hawk's eggs, being accused of witchcraft. This shows you that the language of the law directly reflects what a society is afraid of. Language here isn't just describing things, it's enforcing a really rigid social order.
We've just seen how language can be used to control people directly, through laws. But what happens when the message is a little more subtle? When it's working on 2 levels at once? To explore that, we're going to turn to the incredible power of allegory in George Orwell's classic Animal Farm.
An allegory is basically a story with a secret. On the surface, Animal Farm is just a tale about farm animals taking over from their human farmer. Simple enough. But underneath that simple story, it's a devastating critique of the Russian Revolution and how idealistic goals can become corrupted. The animals aren't really just animals. They're all symbols for something else. This, right here, is the founding principle of their new world. It's a single, powerful, beautiful, idealistic sentence. It's the language of revolution, of hope, of a perfect future where everyone is treated with dignity. This is the promise. And then there's the betrayal. It's captured in this brilliant, absolutely chilling manipulation of language. By adding just 5 little words, the pigs in charge completely flip the original meaning on its head, all while pretending to still believe in it.
This just perfectly shows how language itself can be twisted into a tool of oppression, warping words to justify the exact opposite of what they're supposed to mean.
So in Animal Farm, language was twisted to create a social hierarchy. But honestly, we do something kind of similar in much smaller ways every single day. We are constantly using language not just to share information, but to signal who we are, where we're from, and where we fit in the social world.
And there's a whole field of study dedicated to this, called sociolinguistics. This is where we stop looking at language in a textbook and start looking at how it's actually used by real people out in the wild. It's all about that intersection between language and society.
So let me ask you a question, and be honest. Do you talk to your best friend the same way you talk to your boss, or the same way you talk to your grandma? Of course you don't. We are all natural sociolinguists. We constantly, instinctively adjust our language to fit the person we're talking to and the situation we're in.
And here's a perfect example of this in action. When talking to a professor, the language is formal, it's grammatically complete. That signals respect for their status. But with a friend, it's informal, it's abbreviated. That signals closeness, that you're on the same level. We are all masters of this kind of code switching, using language to navigate our social world without even thinking about it. So, we've gone from a simple vibration in the throat all the way to the complex social codes that run our lives. We've seen how language builds worlds, how it records history, and how it shapes who we are. But language is never finished. It is always, always changing. So the final question to leave you with is this. Where does it go from here? What's the next chapter in this incredible, unseen universe of language?